Welcome back to Chasing Shadows. Tonight is our Halloween special, the perfect dive into the haunted history of this ancient night. I'm your host, Mark Miners, and we're peeling back the layers of costumes, candy, and something far darker that's been lurking since the Celts lit their first bonfires. So throw on your headphones, dim the lights, and maybe even grab a drink, because we're chasing ghosts tonight. Halloween. It's the one night we invite the strange, the spooky, the unexplained into our lives. But where did it all begin? Why do we carve pumpkins into grinning faces? Why do we dress as ghouls and beg for treats? And could there be forces stirring on October 31st that we can't quite pin down? Tonight we're peeling back the layers of this ancient celebration from its Celtic roots to its modern mysteries. And make sure you stick around to the end because I've got some scary stories that I found from the internet. The most talked about Halloween stories in internet history. These are the tales that have racked up tens of thousands of upvotes, endless comments, and left readers checking their doors at 3 a.m. Let's go back, folks. Way back to the misty hills of ancient Ireland, like 2,000 years ago. The Celts, a fierce and mystical people, gathered for a festival called Samhain. This wasn't just a harvest celebration. No, Samhain was the night when the wall between the living and the dead got as thin as a whisper. The Celts believed spirits, ancestors maybe, or something darker, could cross over and walk among us. Picture it, a cold October night, the harvest tucked away, the air heavy with frost and earth. The Celts light massive bonfires, their flames dancing against the sky to ward off anything malevolent. Druids, those shadowy priests of the old world, lead rituals to honor the dead. They'd offer up crops, sometimes animals, and depending on the tales, maybe something more. The people would disguise themselves in animal skins and rough masks, not for fun, but to trick the spirits into thinking they weren't human. You didn't want to be recognized by something from the other side. Not on Samhain. Now here's where it gets spooky. The Celts believed in the Shia, fairy-like beings who could be playful or downright cruel. If you didn't leave out food or drink as an offering, you might wake up to a curse, or worse. Sound familiar? That's right. Our trick-or-treating tradition started as a way to appease these restless spirits. Makes you wonder who's really knocking when your porch light flickers on Halloween night. Let's fast forward a few centuries, and the Romans sweep in, blending their harvest festival Feralia with Samhain. The traditions mix, but the old ways hold strong. Then Christianity arrives, and the church, well, they're not thrilled about these pagan bonfires and spirit talk. Around the 8th century, Pope Gregory III moves All Saints' Day to November 1st, trying to overwrite Samhain with something a bit more sanctified. What about the night before? That's All Hallows' Eve, Halloween. But you can't just erase centuries of belief with a new calendar date. The bonfires kept burning, the costumes stayed, and then there's the jack-o'-lantern. This is a wild one. Ever heard of Stingy Jack? Irish folklore tells of a drunken trickster who outsmarted the devil himself, not once, but twice. Jack trapped the devil in clever deals, but when he died, neither heaven nor hell wanted him. The devil, still stinging from the trickery, tossed Jack a burning coal and cursed him to wander the earth forever, lighting his way with a carved-out turnip. A turnip. When Irish immigrants came to America, they found pumpkins, bigger, brighter, and perfect for carving. And so, the jack-o'-lantern became the grinning, glowing face of Halloween. I've read stories online of jack-o'-lanterns glowing without a candle in sight. By the 19th century, Halloween starts to look more like what we know today. Irish and Scottish immigrants bring their traditions to America, and soon kids are dressing up, pulling pranks, and going door to door for treats. But it wasn't all fun and games. In the 1920s and 30s, Halloween pranks got so wild. Think overturned outhouses and smashed windows. Towns started pushing organized trick-or-treating to keep everything under control. And let's be real, the candy companies saw dollar signs in every plastic pumpkin bucket. But here's the thing. Halloween still carries that ancient Samhain energy. There's something unsettled about it. People report strange things on October 31st. Shadows moving in empty houses. Whispers when the wind goes quiet. Back in 1978, a blogger digging through old newspapers found a report from Sleepy Hollow. Yes, that Sleepy Hollow. About a figure in a tattered cloak holding a glowing pumpkin. No face, just darkness under the hood. When the witness looked again, it was gone. But the pumpkin was left behind, carved with symbols that nobody could read. And then there's the urban legends. Razor blades and apples, poisoned candy. Most are just stories. But every few years something slips through. A report, a rumor, a chill you can't shake. Is it just paranoia? Or is something older, something tied to Samhain, still stirring when the clock strikes midnight on Halloween? Now it's time for the part you've all been waiting for. These are the posts that defined internet horror. I'm going to read them word for word, just as I found them. Starting with the first one, the smiling man. About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was a Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police-patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment when I first noticed him. At the far end of the street, on my side, was the silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to the waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking, headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass by me. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky, and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still, until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly, looking off at the sky. His mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, I decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I began to hear the pat, pat, pat of his shoes on the pavement. I turned to look, and he was sprinting at me, arms out, still smiling. I ran. I ran until I was off of the side road and back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night. and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk. He didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane. And that's a very, very scary thing to see. That is a creepy story. Let's move on to the next one. The forest friend. When I was 8, my family moved into a house that sat on the edge of a very dense forest. The backyard ended in a steep hill that dropped off into thick woods. From day one, our 2 dogs would stand at the top of that hill and bark hysterically at nothing. They refused to go down into the trees. Soon after we moved in, I started talking about my special friend who lived in the forest. I said he had glowing eyes and long fingers, and that he whispered to me through my bedroom window at night. My parents thought it was just an imaginary friend. Then one night, my dad woke up to the sound of soft scratching on the glass. He looked out my window and saw a tall, dark figure standing at the edge of the yard, just inside the tree line. Its head was tilted, like it was listening. My dad yelled, and it vanished into the woods. After that, I started sleepwalking. My parents would find me at the back door, hand on the knob, staring into the dark. Once they found me halfway down the hill in my nightgown, barefoot in the snow. I don't remember any of it. The final straw was when my dad installed a motion light in the backyard. The first night it was up, it triggered at 2:13 a.m. He checked the camera feed. The light was on, but nothing was there. Then slowly, a shape stepped into the light. It was tall, way too tall, limbs too long, head cocked at an impossible angle. It just stood there, staring at the house. The light stayed on for 47 seconds, then it walked backward into the trees, never turning around. We moved 6 months later. I still have nightmares about those glowing eyes, and every time I drive past the forest at night, I roll up the windows. What a freaky story, the forest friend. And now it's time for the third story. And it's called My Son Won't Take Off His Halloween Costume. My wife and I have been looking forward to Halloween for weeks. Our son Alex is 5 years old now, and this is the first year he's really excited about dressing up. He's been talking nonstop about being a superhero, specifically Batman, because he says Batman is the strongest guy ever. We bought the costume 2 weeks ago, and he's been wearing the cape around the house every day since. Last night was trick-or-treating, and it went perfectly. Alex was thrilled with his haul, and he crashed around 9 p.m. Still in his Batman getup, mask, cape, the works. We let him sleep in it. He looked so peaceful, clutching his little pumpkin bucket. This morning, though, things got weird. I went in to wake him up for breakfast, and he was still wearing the costume. No big deal, right? Kids love playing dress up. But when I said, "Hey buddy, time to get changed for school," he just shook his head and said, "No, Daddy, I'm Batman. I have to stay like this." I laughed it off and tried to gently remove the mask. He started screaming like nothing I've ever heard. High-pitched, panicked, like I was hurting him. My wife rushed in, and we finally got him calmed down, but he wouldn't let us take any of it off. Not the mask, not the gloves, nothing. He ate breakfast sitting at the table in full costume. And when we dropped him off at preschool, he refused to take off the cape even then. The teachers thought it was cute at first. By afternoon pickup, though, they pulled us aside. Alex has been acting strange all day, whispering to himself, hiding under tables, saying things like, "The shadows are coming," and "I have to protect the cave." We chalked it up to an overactive imagination fueled by too much candy. But at home, he wouldn't eat dinner without the mask on. He kept tilting his head like he was listening to something that we couldn't hear. Bedtime was a battle. He cried for an hour, begging to keep it on because the bad guys are outside. We finally compromised. He could sleep with the cape, but the mask had to come off. As soon as it was off, his eyes were wide, darting around the room. "Daddy," he whispered, "he's still here. The man in the costume. He says I have to wear it forever." I thought he was just tired and scared from a bad dream, so I tucked him in and turned out the light. But around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. I got up, heart pounding, and peeked into his room. Alex was standing by the window, mask back on, staring out into the dark yard. "They're here," he said softly, without turning around. "The monsters from Halloween. They want their skins back." I rushed in and grabbed him, pulling the mask off. Underneath, his face was pale, eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept. But the scariest part, there were faint scratches on his cheeks, like tiny claws had raked them while he slept. We haven't let him out of our sight since. The costume is locked in the garage now, but every night we hear rustling from the box. And Alex, he keeps asking when he can be Batman again. He says the man inside the suit is lonely. That one, as a father, freaks me out completely. That is all for tonight's Halloween special. Make sure you like the episode and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Join me next time on Chasing Shadows as we hunt for more mysteries in the dark. Until then, stay curious, stay vigilant, and maybe don't let the kids keep the costume on too long. Good night.